He walks onto the stage, the lights blinding, the crowd roaring, his smile wide, too wide. "This is your time to shine," he says with that familiar calm voice, the one that has filled stadiums and homes for over 2 decades. But tonight, something feels different. The applause sounds thinner. The energy feels off. Behind that perfect smile, there's a story that few dare to tell. Joel Osteen, the man once called America's pastor, a preacher whose voice could lift millions, whose words promised hope, blessing, and prosperity. But as the years passed, cracks began to form in the image he built so carefully. While his sermons preached that God wanted you to be rich, people began to notice that maybe, just maybe, those riches seemed to circle back to him. When the pandemic hit, businesses were closing, families were struggling, small churches were fighting to survive. Yet, according to reports, Joel Osteen's megachurch received $4.4 million in COVID loans, money meant to keep small businesses afloat. And even as the country struggled, the pastor was said to be living in a $10.5 million mansion. The same man who preached generosity and faith was now facing whispers of hypocrisy. And then came the revelations about charity. That Lakewood Church, the powerhouse of prosperity, spent reportedly only around 1% on charitable causes. The crowd that once saw him as a beacon of hope began asking questions. Was this truly the message of faith, or a business built on belief? But the story doesn't stop there. Because while the criticism grew louder, Osteen didn't step back. He bought another home, a $3 million estate, and continued to charge $15 for tickets to hear him preach. His TV show still reached millions every Sunday, but viewers noticed something strange. There was little talk of sin, little mention of Jesus, and more about success, money, and positivity. Now, with declining attendance and mounting criticism, even his followers are beginning to wonder if the message still holds power, or if it's all slipping away. Joel Osteen still smiles, still speaks of hope, still promises abundance. But behind that smile, you can almost feel it. The weight of doubt, the shadow of truth pressing in. Because maybe, just maybe, things aren't looking so good for Pastor Joel Osteen after all. So before you judge or defend, pause for a moment. What does this story really tell us about faith, wealth, and the fine line between blessing and greed? If you've made it this far, don't scroll away. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens next might just change the way you see everything about modern preaching. The camera pans across the empty seats of Lakewood Church, once packed to the brim with over 16,000 people every Sunday. The air still carries echoes of worship, the faint sound of applause, and the rhythm of a man's voice that once felt unstoppable. But times have changed, and so has the world's patience. Online, headlines began to spread like wildfire. The prosperity preacher who said, "God wants you to live in abundance," was now accused of living in excess. Social media turned his name into a battlefield, half defending him, half demanding answers. And somewhere in the middle stood Joel Osteen himself, still smiling, still calm, still repeating the same message. Don't focus on the negative. God's blessings are coming your way. But for many, that message started to sound different. Not inspiring, not uplifting, but disconnected, almost hollow. People who once tuned in for hope now questioned his silence on real struggles, real pain, and real faith. "Why does he never talk about sin?" one commenter asked. "Why does Jesus barely get mentioned?" another added. And while the critics talked, Osteen's empire kept shining. His stadium events, his best-selling books, his picture-perfect image. Yet behind closed doors, even those closest to his ministry whispered about the pressure, about how the smiles had to stay, no matter what the news said, about how faith had become a brand. And that's when the story began to turn. Attendance slowly dipped. Donations followed. The same people who once lined up to hear him now scrolled past his messages online. The energy that once lifted thousands began to fade, replaced by skepticism, fatigue, and disappointment. Still, Joel kept going. God will fight your battles, he told his audience. But this time, those battles weren't just spiritual. They were personal, public, and unavoidable. Because the truth is, fame in the name of faith comes with a cost. When your smile becomes your shield, when your mansion becomes your message, it's only a matter of time before the world starts asking, what's real and what's performance? So, what happens when the curtain begins to fall? When the man who built his ministry on positivity must face the weight of public doubt? Stay tuned, because what comes next is where this story takes a turn no one expected. Before you scroll, take a second, hit that subscribe button, and join the conversation. Because this isn't just about Joel Osteen, it's about how power, faith, and image collide in the spotlight. The lights dim, the camera zooms in, and for the first time, Joel Osteen's famous smile looks tired. The crowd still cheers, the lights still sparkle, and the music still swells, but something inside that arena feels different. The charm that once captivated millions now feels distant, fragile. For years, people saw him as the man who made faith feel easy, a promise of blessings without burdens, of success without sacrifice. But now, those promises feel heavier than ever. Behind the scenes, staff whisper about the tension, the pressure to keep the image spotless, the church shining, the message positive no matter what the world says. Joel still walks the stage like a man untouched by scandal. But when the cameras go off, the silence grows louder than the applause. Critics question where the line between faith and fame truly lies. Can you serve God and still chase wealth? One journalist asks. Others wonder how a pastor could live in luxury while his community struggles to get by. The mansion, the loans, the ticket prices, it all builds a picture the public can't ignore. Yet even now, Joel keeps preaching, standing tall under the lights, saying, God's favor is still on your life. His words ring out, but they don't echo the way they used to. Some fans still believe in him, still defend him fiercely. Others turn away, disillusioned by the man they once admired. The internet buzzes with theories, headlines, and debates. Every smile, every word, every purchase becomes evidence for one side or the other. But the truth? The truth may be something in between. Because Joel Osteen isn't just a symbol of faith, he's a reflection of us all. Our desire for comfort, our fascination with success, our belief that good things come to those who stay positive. Maybe his story isn't just about one man, but about how easily the message can be lost when the spotlight burns too bright. As the music fades and the lights dim for the night, Joel looks out over the empty seats, whispering a quiet prayer only he can hear. For forgiveness, for strength, for clarity, whatever comes next. And maybe, just maybe, he knows deep down that the message has to change before it's too late. Because no matter how bright a smile shines, it can't hide the truth forever. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, stay connected, and keep thinking deeper. Because this story isn't over yet. The night grows still inside the massive Lakewood Arena. The lights that once blazed with glory now hum faintly, casting soft reflections on the empty seats. Joel stands there alone, gazing at the same spot where tens of thousands once lifted their hands in worship, where applause once thundered like waves. Now, it's quiet, eerily quiet. He exhales deeply, shoulders heavy, his mind replaying every moment that brought him here. The headlines, the whispers, the endless scrutiny. The world that once cheered now questions. The fans that once followed now fade away. But still, deep inside, he tells himself the same thing he's told others for years. Don't let the storms define you. Yet even he wonders if the storm he's in now is one of his own making. He glances up at the giant screen showing his face smiling from a past sermon, almost like a ghost from another time. The man in that video seems invincible, confident, glowing, unshaken. But the man standing here tonight feels human, flawed, uncertain. He closes his eyes and whispers a quiet prayer, not for fame, not for wealth, but for understanding, for peace, for something real. Somewhere beyond the stage lights, a janitor sweeps the floor, pausing to look at him with quiet curiosity. "You okay, Pastor?" the man asks softly. Joel forces a small smile. "Yeah, just thinking," he replies. The janitor nods, goes back to work, and Joel stares again at the empty seats. Every one of them represents a story, a soul that came searching for hope. Maybe that's where he lost his way, trying to build an empire instead of nurturing hearts. The thought stings. He turns to leave, the sound of his footsteps echoing down the corridor. But before he steps out, he stops and looks back one last time. "God," he murmurs, "if I've strayed too far, show me the way back." His voice trembles slightly, sincere and raw. For the first time in years, there's no audience, no camera, no script, just a man searching for redemption. And in that silence, something shifts. Maybe this is where the healing begins, not on a stage, not in a sermon, but in a moment of honesty. The scene fades as he walks into the dim light, his shadow long behind him. The music swells softly, hopeful yet somber. Things may not be looking good for Pastor Joel Osteen, but perhaps this is where his real story begins. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories that reveal the truth behind the shine.